works, leave to play.
Welcome, Wargamers. I'm MiniWarGaming Dan from MiniWarGaming.com, here to bring you Waaagh Ork Tactica on Ork Boys. Now, I did one a long time ago, like years ago when we first started up. Just like I was a favor for Matt and Dave, I wasn't involved too much with MiniWarGaming at that time, but it's just, boys are just amazing. If you want to go see that, it's on YouTube. It's like Ork Tactica. It'll come up. It's got a lot of views. But I just want to kind of just reiterate some things, maybe go a little in depth in different ways about how Ork Boys are just, well, for those of you who aren't 100% familiar with the orks, boys are everything in the ork army. It's just more boys always. Not like little boys, but like ork boys. So they're big, greasy, they're like the size of a space marine. They're just big, they're burly, and they just go. They love the Waaagh. They just want to charge in. They want to rip stuff apart. And I'm going to teach you more or less how to go about doing it. And something curious that a lot of people don't realize is that, especially when I'm playing against them, they're asking like, oh, what's this person's save? What's this person's stat line? Or everything almost is the same as a boy. If there's like death copters and war bikes, which I'll get into later Tactica, but they're just boys on bikes, so they get +1 toughness. Other than that, they're a boy. Exactly the same. Ludas, Burnas, Storm Boys. They're just all boys. I mean, there's the knobs, and there's different variations of knobs, like flash kits and all, but most, like almost all of them are just all boys. Now, boys have a t-shirt save. I'm Pride in Black. We got another shirt. I thought I was wearing the other shirt. They got a t-shirt save, okay? 6+. They die in droves if you let them be in the open. So you always want some kind of cover. And if you just watch the Gretchen video, Gretchen are one excellent way to get them in cover. You just run them up front. But sometimes Gretchen can bog you down. They move a bit too slow. And so you can use terrain to your advantage just as you're moving up. And there's different, I would say there's 3 different ways to take boys. In this video, I'm just gonna focus on the massive squad of 30 boys, okay? That's a max that you can have. Okay, so when you're using 30 boys, you wanna be using mostly sluggas. You can take shooters as well. We'll get into that in a bit. But you wanna be running, you wanna get into combat as soon as possible, which means you're running every turn. And if you're running every turn, you're not using your shooters to its full capacity. And so the sluggas, the advantage of the sluggas is that it doesn't matter because your pistols aren't gonna be able to do much from a range anyways unless you're in charge range already. And then that charge range, then you move, shoot, and assault, or you just wait for that opportune moment to call out, and then boom, and you're in combat. So you don't miss the shooting, but even if you miss the shooting, it's only pistols, so it's not that bad. And then you get that whole extra attack in close combat. And so yeah, the main thing with boys is that you don't want to get charged. The whole ork army revolves around your 1 strength, getting off that charge. Which, huge for boys, because they only start off strength 3, they go to strength 4. So massive difference. You can glance vehicles now, otherwise you couldn't. You can hurt some of the bigger monstrous creatures, otherwise you couldn't. And so it's just, you want to get that charge. Furious charge is so very important because after the orcs charge, if they get the counter charge, they can hurt you so, like you just die, okay? You just die because you can t-shirt save. You're not going to make every time I make one, it's a bonus. And so you want to get in there. You want to get really, and you just fight, and you just want to get stuck in combat as much as possible. The advantage of the 30 squad boys compared to less is that you can take a beating. Even with a cover save, even with everything, they're going to pound you. But even if you get to them with 20 or 10 boys, you're going to do lots of damage still. Because orcs, they get so many base attacks. The most attacks per model, like for the point cost that they are, boys are ridiculously effective. The only thing that evens it out is that they're really easy to kill. You can just shoot them up. What I want to show you guys is just how to be able to use cover a bit, from the aerial view, we'll get right into that. Like I said with orcs, I mean, there's 30 boys, there's a lot. They're all over the place. But you just kind of want to keep somewhat behind structures and leave a few guys behind, because when you charge, most likely you're not going to get everyone in combat anyways. And since they're going to attack first, you can just take off the back guys that die first, because they're not going to fight anyway. So it's not the biggest deal to get every single mod in combat. I mean, if you can, great, but if not, fine. But so like, this is like, gives cover, and this will give cover. And so if like on this angle, if you're close, like if he's up here, then he can have that line of sight. He'll see just over half, and that's fine. But if he's back more, he'll only be able to see this small amount of guys within, and then because half of it is behind, the rest will get cover. And so as you're moving up, you want to move up to 6, okay? Okay, and so you want to swarm out, you want to get, you know, these guys in the front that'll be able to, you know, get someone locked into combat, because, but the advantage of 30 boys is that you don't have to kill them first turn. They can withstand a lot, and even if they're countercharged by another unit, it won't be as bad just because they're so robust, because you have so many of them. And so you just move them up. This can be applied to any horde army, any huge army of, like, say, Tyranids. I guess that's really the only one I can think of right now. But you just get that, and most importantly, Power Claw. We'll get into that in a sec. You just want to move them up, and so you try to keep them in cover as long as possible, because if not, it's literally twice as many guys will die. And so we'll say a random round of shooting at your boys, you lose this many guys, okay? Or maybe this many guys, that's huge, right? If you're out in the open, you would have lost more like this many guys. And then you barely have anything left. And so even if it takes a tiny bit slower, again, don't try to avoid running over the difficult terrain, because then if you don't roll a 6, then, or if you roll a 1, for example, it's awful. But because you're not worried, because you have sluggas, you're not worried about shooting too much, you can roll that extra d6, possibly move another d6, and move up even more. And then the rest of your boys that would be alive can stay behind this cover. Sorry, there's just too many. I'm too lazy to move them all. They can stay behind the bush, trailing behind. And so from like an angle of like this way, they'll still get cover. Okay, and so you can't always get everything, but if you can cover your bases from the other, and there'll be other boys coming up from the other angles, and just keep them covered as much as possible, guys. That's all I'm gonna say. Now, at the head of your boy squad, there will be a knob. It's optional, but you better take it. Okay, the knob is essential. Oftentimes, the whole unit of boys is just a sacrificial little bit for the knob who's there. So I think I modeled so many of these guys. There's like, I think I have like 8 of them for like different boy squads. And you always need a knob. Now, sometimes, I mean, there's different, you always want to give them a boss pull, okay? That's one of the options. Now, the boss pull allows you to re-roll failed morale tests, okay? So anytime you lose more than 25% of the unit in a phase, or you get tank shocked, or you lose combat, those all require morale tests. And with a leadership, okay, if you're a squad of 30 boys, great. If you're over 11, you have the mob rule, which is awesome for the orcs, particularly for boys because you have bigger squads. Mob rule, 11 or more means you're fearless. 10 or less means you have that amount of leadership. So 10, 9, 8, and then when you get to 7, then it caps. So you can't go lower than 7. You're not quite as bad as those like Tyranid Gaunts or whatever when they're left alone. They got like leadership 5 or something. So you have that sometimes low leadership, and if you get down to where you have to test leadership, you're probably going to be below half strength, like half strength of the unit. And if you fail a morale test and you're falling back, one of the rules is if you're below half strength, you can't regroup. So the boss pull, this guy doesn't have boss. I'm going to find a guy with a boss pull. All right, I can't find a guy with a boss pole. But you just assume, oh, I got one. Yeah, look at that, look at that. Look at that sexy thing there. So, the boss pole is like, I don't know why it enables you. It's just like, you know, that point. I don't even know why it costs points. It should become included. Because like, here's a knob. He's all tough and gritty and like, I'm a knob, I'm a big old ork, yeah. And then there's a, where are you? Then there's a boy. There's a normal little boy, and he's just like, well, he gets scared sometimes, especially when like half of his guys are just dead. They're just like, and there's like half as many guys that are like, nah, and they want to retreat for whatever reason. They want to retreat. That's like you fail your morale test. You roll under 7 or above, and then you're kind of like screwed, right? Because your boys are what you need, even if a small number of them can do so much, especially because that power claw. It just rips through armor, rips through armor. And so that boss pole allows you to re-roll. But there is a price, because in fine orc fashion, the knob takes the boy and goes, and then all the rest of the boys rethink, maybe I shouldn't run. Maybe I might get killed too. So you get the re-roll. That's amazing. Some games, it's like fail, re-roll, got it. Fail, re-roll, got it. Fail, re-roll, got it. Fail, re-roll, got it. All my guys are still on the board. No one's falling back. I'm locked in combat. Sucker! And then my boss pole kills the rest of them, or my power claw. And so the next war gear for the knob is power claw. You can give him a big choppa, which is +2 to strength, or you can give him a power claw, which is the same as a power fist. Double strength. And then when you have furious charge, there's even another +1 on that, so you're strength 9. So, with that strength 9 charge, you can pop most any vehicle. Land Raiders are still a bit iffy. You want, like, if you have a war boss, you're strength 10, so you take care of that. But power class, strength 9 can really, and when you get 4 attacks on the charge, you get a bit more. And so knobs are just essential to every boy squad, no matter what the size. You want a knob leading them with a power claw. Now, some people argue just to save points, because Big Chop is super cheap. It's like 1/5 the cost of the power claw. And so some people, argue that take the Big Choppa, you save a lot of points, get more boys, and then you attack and you have the higher strength. You're mostly 2s to wound, and so you just cause more wounds. The only problem, I mean, you get a few more, but honestly, for that extra point cost, in my opinion, every single time you have to take a power claw, because half the stuff you're fighting has a 3+ armor, like a power armor save, or even 2+ if it's Terminators. And so, but what makes your squad so diverse, first of all, boys just shell out so many attacks. You're just forcing tons and tons of saves. But if they get really lucky with their saves, your power claw, like it's like even combat, or you just lost by a little bit. But then your power claw, even though he's initiative 1, your boys are initiative 2, maybe 3 on the charge anyways. And so they're probably attacking first anyway. So they attack, kill a bunch of boys, your boys attack back, and it's like, oh, good combat. And you're like, oh wait, there's a power claw. You guys know what I'm talking about. And then you roll those, you hit, you almost always wound. It's almost always a 2+. And then once you wound them, unless they have an invulnerable save, they're dead. They're just dead. They're just gone. Like there's no like, I have like a 2/3 chance of protecting myself. No, they're done. No feel, no pain, it's just done. And then they lose a couple more guys, and then all of a sudden you win combat, and they have to be rolling for their leadership. And it's a wonderful feeling of just the power claw ripping. There's 2 things in the Ork army that I love more than anything else. Death rollers, hitting vehicles, or anything for that matter, and power claws attacking. Those 2 things make orcs worth playing alone in themselves. And so, knob, power claw, boss pole, in big groups of orcs. And you want just not one squad. For goodness sakes, don't just bring one squad of 30. If you're gonna bring one, no. You wanna bring at least 2, maybe even 3 squads. And they're not overly expensive, so you can fit those into an army group, and you just move up, you attack, and so just target priority. Get those boys in the combat. Stay tuned. Click on the link here or the link below for how to use boys in more different manners.